Hello, fictional. Welcome to the Fiction Series X. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei become a demigod? Part 4. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. The fateful night came, the night of the rating game. It was 10 at night, 2 hours before the game, and Issei was sitting in his room waiting for the time where the game would begin when he heard a knock on the door. "Come in," he said as he looked at the door. Once the door opened, he saw Asia come through the door. She was wearing her nun outfit, a blue dress with a white collar. The only difference between this was she had no crucifix around her neck. "Ah, so that is what you choose to wear," Issei said as he motioned for her to come over to him. "Yes, Ria's told me to wear something I am comfortable in. So I chose my old outfit. Even though I am no longer a nun, I still choose to believe." She sat next to him on his bed. "That's good to know. You look normal as you could be in that outfit," he said as he put his arm around her. She looked at him. "Can I stay with you until it's time?" Issei swooped her up and placed her on his lap and put his arms around her. "Of course you can, we will be together forever." He stroked her hair almost like he was petting her as it was calming her down. 11:40 p.m. It begins. Issei had teleported him and Asia to the clubroom. When they arrived, they saw everybody look like they were ready for a fight. He saw Kaneko sitting on the couch in her school uniform with open finger MMA gloves. They were black, but had a pink cat paw print on them. Kiba was standing next to the wall. He had armor around his arms and shins. Akeno and Riaz were in their normal school uniforms. Issei looked at Kiba while Asia sat down on the couch. "I didn't think you would have a Vambrace. During training, I was able to make them. So it became quite a productive time," Kiba told him. "Well, at least something came of it." He sat down on the couch. Nobody spoke a word as the time passed. Eventually, another magic circle appeared. Out came Graphia. "It's time. You have 10 minutes before the match. Is everybody ready?" Everybody stood up, giving her the confirmation she needed. "I will transport you to a separate dimension we use for the games. Once there, you may use any and all power necessary. Buildings may be destroyed. If you wanted, you could destroy the whole battlefield if you wanted to as well. There is no limit, so do not hold back. Once inside, you will have 10 minutes of planning and setup, then I will call the start of the match. This pseudo-rating game will be aired to members of both houses. Mao Lucifer will also be viewing this game. Brother as well. That is nice to know. Brother will be watching," Riaz said. Did she say her brother was the Mao Lucifer?" Asia asked as she was extremely confused. "Correct, her older brother is Serzach Lucifer, one of the leaders of the Devil Society," Kiba told her. "Also Zeus, Aphrodite and another woman I am not familiar with is there as well," Graphia said while looking at Issei. "I see, so Zeus decided to come to watch." This other woman described her. Shiny blonde hair, silver eyes. She started to speak as Issei started to finish her description. "Wait, let me guess, she's wearing a red or silver dress. That doesn't leave too much to the imagination." "That's correct. I assume you are familiar with her." "I'm kinda surprised you don't know who she is. Everybody else I can understand, but that woman is Freya. Mother probably invited her," Issei said while shaking his head. "Anyways, begin planning your battle." As fast as she spoke, she teleported away and they were transported to the battlefield. Scene change. When they arrived at the battlefield, they were in the same place they had been beforehand. Issei spoke up. "Did the transport fail?" The school PA system sparked up. "Good evening, everyone. I am Graphia, maid of the Gremory household. Tonight I will be the arbiter of this match between the Gremory and Phoenix households. We decided on a replica match using the school that Riaz attends as the battlefield. Home field advantage, how kind of them," Issei said while looking out the window to the rest of the school. "Yes, I agree, however it seems like we also been given a handicap with it as well." As Riaz said, the PA went off once again. "The locations you are currently at are your bases. Lady Riaz is in her occult research club and Lord Riser is in the student council office. Pawns will need to travel to the opposite locations to be able to promote." Riaz got up from her desk and started to hand out earpieces to everybody. When she got to Issei, he looked down at it and was surprised. "You know, I always thought they used magic to communicate with each other. Never expected the simple way of earpieces." As he put the device in his ear, he went to look out the window when they heard the PA go off one more time. "It is now time for the game to begin. You have till 3 a.m. Japan Standard Time." Once the PA clicked off, the school bell rang, beginning the start of the match. Riaz went to sit down on the couch while Issei closes his eyes, and when he opened them, he saw his reflection in the glass. Slits replaced his eyes and the boosted gear appeared on his arm. With a smile on his face, Issei spoke aloud. "Drake, are you thinking what I'm thinking?" "Do it." He spoke out as everybody heard him. Issei punched the window with his left hand, shattering the glass. This startled everybody as they watched on. Boost. Explosion. rang through the room as Issei stuck his hand out. A ball of energy formed, well no bigger than a ping pong ball, it was a dark crimson near the shade of black. Dragon shot. As he said those magical words, the ball expanded into a massive blast the size of his hand. His target, the main school building, as he knew that Riser's team was still in there and that it was his best chance for a preemptive strike. The blast traveled to the classrooms at high speed and impacted with the building. When the blast impacted, all the windows were blown out of the school from the shockwave. As the dust started to settle, Riaz yelled at him, Issei, why did she stop? As she saw him holding up one finger, still looking out the window. They waited for an announcement and then it finally came to Riser Phoenix. 2 pawns and 1 bishop retired. Issei turned to the group whose eyes were wide after they heard the call. Now we're down to lucky number 13, realistic 12 though. You just took out 3 people from the base and it hasn't even been 2 minutes into the match. This is a chess match, not a bar brawl. Riaz tried to scold him, but she knew the results were effective. Yes, I did. That leaves 2 members of his harem for the each of us, but it's more like 3 or so more for me. And remember, in the real world combat is nothing like chess. So shall we have some fight? He said with a smile on his face. Just go to the gym with Kaneko. I'll be in contact with you later. Riaz shook her head as she saw them walk out the door as she started to explain the rest of the plan to everybody else. As Issei and Kaneko arrived at the gym, they were crouched down next to a wall. How do you want to do this? Issei asked her. There is only one way in, she said with her quiet voice. Don't bother, we can hear you. A voice rang out through the whole gym. The stealth option was a bust, so they walk into the main section of the gym to see 4 girls. 2 of them were matching younger girls in PE clothes, while a girl with a wooden staff and a red and white traditional haori along with a girl wears a blue cheongsam. The small rook and the outlier. I am Shulin, Rook of Riser Phoenix. The girl in the blue Chinese dress introduced herself. I am called Mira Pawn. She twirled her staff. I'm Lee and I'm Nell. The 2 short matching younger girls said one after another. That rook, her combat skill might be near queen by itself. Kaneko said while pulling down on her gloves. Oh, can you handle it alone? He asked her. I will deal with her. Please take care of the rest of pawns. She moved closer to her opponent, as did Issei. Kaneko vs Shulin. As the fight began, Shulin made the first strike by jumping into the air and kicking Kaneko. While in the air, her feet caught on fire. Kaneko dodged the attack only for the fire around her feet to disappear as she went for another kick. This time Kaneko began to mixing in punches of her own. Shulin did the same along with her kicks. All of her attacks were augmented with the properties of fire. None of the attacks they were throwing made contact as they were dodging and weaving past each other's attacks, as it was a perfect display of finesse. Shulin let a right haymaker fly to Kaneko's head, however she dodged it by leaning back. This left her open for a kick that, while it didn't hit, the force of it passing by her ripped her clothes, exposing a good amount of her underwear. When she recovered, Shulin began to fly another volley of high-speed kicks. Kaneko was on the hard defensive by this point as she was blocking each attack with forearms. Shulin, however, got careless as she spun around to make a strike with her off leg. This backfired hard for her as Kaneko caught her leg. Kaneko saw Shulin's eyes widen as she threw her leg aside and lunged at her to punch her right in the face. Shulin slid back from the recoil of the attack, however. Before she could recover, Kaneko made a dash for her, and when she reached up close, she landed a solid punch to the abdomen. The punch laid her out on the floor and she struggled to get back up. She was only able to get up partway and spoke, "Who are you?" "Riaz Rook," was all she replied as Shulin passed out. Issei vs Mirali and Nell. Before Issei, he saw the girls and 2 of them looked too far too underage for anybody's liking. So who will have this first dance? Mira took position ready to attack him while the 2 other girls took their weapons out of the bags they were carrying. Issei, however, was too focused on the other 2 as Mira charged at him and struck him in the abdomen with her staff. He looked down to see that the stick had impacted with him. "You are going to need a lot more than that to hurt me." He grabbed the staff and pushed it away, causing Mira to slide backward on the floor as she could not grip the floor. When Mira came to a stop, a distinct sound of an engine rev was heard. He looked around to see that the 2 other girls were swinging chainsaws at him. As the girls charged at Issei, they held down the throttle on the chainsaws and the chain caught on fire. As the 2 of them swung at Issei, he dodges both of them by jumping back. What the fuck, who thought it was a great idea to give little girls chainsaws? Better yet, why are they on fire? Issei yelled as the girls continued to swing at him more and more frequently. The paw came up one more time. Riser Phoenix 1 pawn retired. After dodge enough of their attacks, Issei was backed up to the wall in the gym. Well, he paid no attention to the retirement call. When the twins came at him for another attack, he went through the middle of their attack. He narrowly avoided getting touched by the blade, but when he got next to them, he pushed both of the girls away from him. During this time, Mira saw her chance and charged Issei, however before her staff impacted, he caught the staff with his hand. He clamped down on the staff, breaking the wood, causing Mira to fall forwards. As she fell forward, he grabbed her shoulder and shoved her to the floor. Next time, make your staff out of a metal that has good tensile strength. He started to walk over to Kaneko, but the girls recovered. They got up and charged at him with open hands. He sighed and held his hand out to his side, and all that was heard in a noisy gym was a snap. Once he snapped his fingers, the three girls had all their clothes shredded off of them. This caused Kaneko and Shulin to stop what they were doing and stare at him. "You're terrible, you're a monster," came from the twins' enemy of women. Mira yelled at him. The three of them were sitting on the floor with one arm covering their breasts and the other covering their crotch. "Enemy of women, you say? I must say, considering my job before I became a devil, that's quite ironic." Issei walked back towards them and continued, "You see, the three of you are definitely not my type. However, it is true for about 99% of women that if you take off their clothes like I just did, they're not longer gonna fight." He looked at them with a pervy smile. "You're not going to reveal yourself to me to attack me. And that fine by me, you can sit there for the rest of the game." He began to walk away from them, and Kaneko spoke. "I'm disappointed in you." Issei looked at her. "You never had high hopes to begin with, so I went from 0 to 0. As he finished, in their ears the communication device went off. "Issei, Kaneko, get out of the gym. Akeno is ready to strike." Ria's came in loud and clear. Issei rushed to Kaneko and grabbed her and darted out of the gym. Once he was clear of the gym, an explosion went off as he set Kaneko down. "Akeno went overboard," she said while looking at the gym as he was now in ruins. "Well, they're no kill like overkill. Also, Kiba took one of them down as well." Issei admired the explosion as another announcement came. "Riser Phoenix 3 pawns 1 rook retired. I'd say it was worth it." He looked up to see Akeno in the air above the gym with a blush on her face, licking her fingers. "Akeno will need time to recover after that." Issei regrouped with Kiba. "Roger that." Issei replied as he and Kaneko went their separate ways. He heard a loud explosion. He began to look around, and when he saw the hole in the ground, he saw that Kaneko was lying there badly damaged. He rushed over to her and picked her up. When he looked down, he saw cuts all over her and blood pouring out. "It will be okay." He tried to comfort her. She moved her head to look at his and tried to speak, "Please save Rias." As she finished, her eyes closed and was enveloped in blue light as she disappeared from his arms. All was not well, however, as Issei was struck with the same attack that Kaneko was. Ria's Gremory Rook retired. The blast made the hole in the ground larger by twofold. Once the explosion ended, he stood up and looked like most of his shirt was torn but still serviceable. He looked up to see a woman floating above him. Purple hair, a matching shade of lipstick with a purple and blue dress. This woman had to be Riser Queen, he thought to himself. A pair of dragon wings came out from his back and he skyrocketed up to her height with a power flap of the wings. When he got to her high, the wings continued to flap to hold elevation. She looked at him with a smug "Looks like you're down a member." Akeno showed up and saw the hole in the ground along with Issei. "Issei, let me handle her. I believe you have other things to do," she said as she moved next to him. "Hold on, before I let you have your fun, there is something I need from her." He looked back to Yubaluna. "Tell me something." You and Ravel had the tears. When Issei has this, both of queens were surprised by the question. "Now why would I answer that?" she said as she was trying to take advantage of the conversation. However, she knew she was cooked. "You already have." He flapped his wings, causing a huge gust of wind to push Akeno back as he darted to Yubaluna and punched her right below her breasts. She wrapped both of her arms around the impact spot while she bent over slightly. Issei took this chance at stuck his right hand down her open top and into her breasts. This caused her and Akeno to go wide-eyed from what he was doing. When he hit bottom where her bra was, he felt a glass object. He grabbed it and yanked his hand out. Yubaluna tried to grab his hand, but he was too fast for him as he moved back to the position near Akeno. Akeno looked at him and spoke, "Was sexually harassing her necessary?" However, when he moved his hand over to her, she saw what was in his hand. A glass jar containing nothing other than a phoenix tear. "I trust you will forgive me. Because I believe this is more useful to us rather than them." He placed the V in Akeno's hand and then looked back to Yubaluna as his right hand caught on fire. "Wash and use moisturizer on your tits better." Those were some of the worst tits I've ever felt. She was furious that another man had touched her, let alone that he was getting away. As Issei descended to the ground, she threw another attack at him while Akeno threw some lightning at her. Issei dodged her attack to see that she was hit by lightning. "I'm going to leave you to Akeno. She looks like she needs to have a release, and seeing as I don't want to be on the receiving end of that, you can be. But if you do manage to beat her, come find me." As he landed, he went off to meet with Kiba. "Shall we fight then, Bomb Queen?" Akeno asked. "Very well, Priestess of Thunder." Yubaluna replied, still pissed as she was going to get her hands on Issei. But Kiba was now held up behind a shed near the track field, waiting for Issei to show up. Kiba heard a rock move and grabbed his sword, preparing to attack when a voice came, "Sorry I'm late, I had to balance out a cat fight." "What?" Kiba asked as he was confused. Ikeno is fighting Riser's queen and I took away her phoenix tier and she took some damage in the process. Issei explained to him. I see that is helpful. Anyways, you noticed it, right? He asked while looking around the shed. Yeah, I do, let's go meet them. Issei put out his fist for fist bump that Kiba reciprocated. They walked out from behind the shed to see a lone woman standing in the track. Blonde hair with green eyes and a headband to hold back her hair. She wore what looked like a knight's armor, while it took influences from the samurai with hip and shoulder pads, all while wearing a skirt. As she raised her blade and pointed it at them, she made a declaration, I am Carloman, Knight of Riser Phoenix, and I challenge you to a duel. Issei looked at Kiba and shook his head, that's all, you man. I don't do that, plus you broke my sword. Kiba approached her. I am Knight of Ria's Gremory Kibayudo. They both had drawn their swords by this time. Kiba vs Carloman. I look forward to a duel with a fellow knight. Less than a second later the two of them had disappeared in blinding speed. Metal on metal could be heard as the swords clashed. As Carloman swung her sword, her blade caught on fire as she infused magic into it, augmenting its abilities. Just like with the other girls, they had used fire to increase the damage output of their attacks. Sparks and flames began to fly everywhere as they began to move in a circular pattern, the faster that if they went any faster a tornado of fire would have started. During the fight, Issei walked away from the two of them as he didn't want to get caught up in sparks. So if those two are fighting, can I just watch them? He mumbled out. Not exactly. Another woman voice walked out from behind some bushes in the distance as she began to walk to him. Then another voice was heard. This time he knew it. Come now, did you expect it to be that easy? When he looked over he saw Ravel in a pink and white full body outfit. Issei looked at her and scratched his head. Honestly, yeah, I did. I see. She snapped her fingers. Out came three more girls, a pair of catgirls and a girl with a sword on her back. If you beat the four of them you can fight my brother. I am surprised that Ria's recruited you. Isabella. I am Isabella, Rook of Riser Phoenix. The now introduced woman walked towards Issei wearing torn up pants and a fashioned military jacket as her top. Issei leaned in to get a better look at her outfit, but that's when she decided to strike. She lunged at him, closing that gap while throwing a right hook. She was confined that it landed, however, when she looked to confirm the hit she saw that her fist was in his right hand. He looked up and down at her clothes but saw the mask on her right side of her face. Did you fashion choice come after you watched the Phantom of the Opera? Issei let go of her fist and jumped back when he looked at her and put his fists up in a standard guard. She did as well. Shall we fight? Was all he needed to say as she charged at him once again, throwing punches at him while Issei was dodging them left and right. She continued to throw attacks at him and every time she did he dodged them, except every punch came closer and closer to landing every time. Boost. The infamous call rang out. Those who were watching were now ready to spring into action. Issei rushed Isabella, striking her in the left shoulder. Isabella felt that the attack had no power to it. Is this all the strength you have? That attack did absolutely no damage to me. Yet when she looked at Issei all she saw was a perverted smile and then another snap of the finger echoed throughout the battlefield. Just like the last time, Isabella's clothes shredded off, destroying all the fabric, leaving her nude. This one is much better than the other three. Oh well, can't admire them all. He put his left hand out and a red ball of energy formed rapidly. Once it was ready he launched it at Isabella, engulfing her in a wave of energy. Riser Phoenix 1 Rook retired. How disturbing that attack is. An attack that can destroy women's clothing. Carloman spoke while looking at Issei. If you think that is disturbing then you should see some of the shit I've seen others do. I know a woman who can exhale and a mountainside will disappear if she chooses. Issei told her. Kiba, on the other hand, gave a slight bow to her. I apologize for his perversion. I don't. Issei shot back. Ravel spoke up. Nile Cirrus, you three are up. They rushed at Issei. The matching twins went ahead, pouncing at him like kittens, trying to confuse him. After the first two pounced on him, Cirrus, the other remaining knight, jumped into the air and swung her giant sword at him. It slammed into the ground, making a small crater. Issei narrowly avoided it as the two catgirls continued to bounce around on him. Boost. Kiba, it's kinda now or never. We don't have much time left before she does something stupid. He yelled. Very well. Kiba broke away from Carloman to stab his sword into the ground, causing a wave to go to Issei. Issei broke away from the three girls to intercept the attack. He punched the ground where the wave was at and absorbed into the gauntlet and disappeared. Transfer. Rang out and with it came a shockwave followed by a small earthquake. Out of it came swords, thousands upon thousands of swords, all ranging small swords to large 6+ feet tall swords. They spread out in a circular pattern as they kept popping out of the ground, hundreds at a time. As they spread out, everybody in their way was skewered as no discrimination was given. First Cirrus was stabbed as she tried to get away, but a blade appeared right under her, pierced her belly. Then Nai and Lee were next as they had some success outrunning the first set of blades, but as they tried to get away, the more blades that spawned the harder it was for them to get away. Eventually, the wall of steel passed them. One was stabbed in the back, while the other was grazed on the side, yet still caused enough damage for retirement. Parliament took the most punishment. She was unable to outrun it, yet she was propped up with a sword holding her in the air, as they had lodged them into each one of her arms, while another blade was in her belly as well, but the tip of the blade was broken off from the hilt. I see why Lady Ravel said to be careful around him. Carloman spoke as she faded away. After Carloman disappeared, the swords began to fall over, and Issei took off running away from Kiba. Riser Phoenix 2 knights 2 pawns retired. Kiba, however, took up a sword and went over to Ravel and pointed his sword at her. Should we fight then? He asked her. Ravel shook her head when looking at Kiba. That would be pointless. From here on out we will watch as my brother and Issei fight. Well, I don't agree with my brother on his collection of more women. Anything we do now is pointless. Kiba lowered his sword and returned it to its sheath. How so? Would adding another person into the fight not increase the odd, because that would add more total power to the fight? Ravel shook her head. No, it would do nothing. As you are now, you are in no condition to fight my brother. You would only be retired. As you saw from his demonstration at the start of the match, he is holding back. That blast was impressive, I must admit that much. Kiba told her as he saw Issei running to the fight. That attack, if everybody would have gone out that direction, he would have retired most of them. When it comes to combat, he is stronger than my brother, but I don't know by how much more. Ravel said. He never showed it when we were training. He told Ravel. She pointed off into the distance. Watch. Issei versus Riser. Riaz was holding her hands out, casting a magic circle blocking the flames of the oncoming attack, all while Asia was behind her doing all she could with her sacred gear. Live it up, Riaz, you can't defend forever. Your bad decisions will reflect poorly upon you and Lord Lucifer. Riser said as he threw another ball of fire at her when it impacted, causing a large explosion. No, never. She yelled as she finished. The door behind her violently swung open, causing it to deform into the wall. Out came Issei from the doorway as he walked in front of Riaz. Issei. Asia looked at him and smiled. You're late. Riaz continued. He gave them a wave. I see you held the line, however, love isn't always on time. He then looked at Riser. Don't you know when a lady says no, it means no? Shut up, he yelled out as he threw out a large ball of fire at Issei. Issei, however, just stood there as the fireball collided with him. Riser, however, now had a smirk on his face. Well, that was easy. The smoke had yet cleared and a voice came from it. Boost. Oh, this should be fun. Tell me, Riser, why are you so insistent on have Riaz? You have a harem already, though I do question some of them. Riser's smirk turned to a smug look. Why do I want her? That's easy, it's for the survival of our people. I'm gonna call bullshit on that one. Issei was calling his bluff, but one more thing was heard. Riaz Gremory Queen retired. The Keno. Riaz yelled out as she had just lost her queen. Now that Ubaluna is done with it, it should be interesting. Riser began to get beepier and beepier. Interesting that she lost. Issei said as Ubaluna landed next to Riser. She was battered and her clothes were extensively damaged. Well, considering her condition, 2v1 is still more than fair. As that an aura of red energy began to seep out of Issei. Riser and Ubaluna took the opportunity as they leapt backward and into the air, summoning a massive amount of demonic power and then firing it at Issei in unison. As the attacks came hurtling towards Issei, he stuck his hand out, making a magic circle to block the attack. The attack impacted with his shield, causing a massive explosion that shook the building that they were standing on. As Riser was waiting for the call from the announcer, he heard something else that was not what he wanted to hear. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Transfer. As the words of Drake were said, a ball of flames came out from the smoke, causing it all to blow away, revealing Issei in a red suit of armor. The fire went soaring up to Riser and Ubaluna and struck them, causing an explosion, yet not strong enough to do any damage to Riser, yet it was just enough to take out Ubaluna after her previous fight. Riser Phoenix Queen retired. Riser began to yell ha 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 ha. That fire did nothing to, however, he stopped before he could finish as he was struck in the stomach by Issei's left fist, causing him to keel over and descend about while flying. You must improvise, then adapt and finally overcome your problems. Issei told him the ball of fire was the improvise part and adapt. Well, that was easy. He opened his left hand and inside of it was as a crucifix. Riser saw the crucifix in his hand and his eyes went wide. How are you able to hold that? No devil can touch holy objects. It should be burning a hole in your hand. Unless you gave your arm to the dragon. So close. I did give my eyes to the dragon, but not my hand. Issei told him as he blinked and his eyes turned to dragon slits. Then how are you able to hold it? Riser yelled as he flew back up to Issei elevation. Issei smiled and held his hand out as it began to glow red just like it did before. Simple dragon aura. I've given just enough to create the aura of a dragon. He closed his hand, trapping the crucifix in it. Now let's finish this, I don't want to be here all night. As Riser and Issei began to fight again, Riser was extra careful to dodge Issei's left attacks. Riaz and Asia were looking on as they fought. That's amazing, I didn't know he had his balance breaker, did you know? Riaz looked over to Asia as she was sitting on the roof. She shook her head, no I didn't. He asked me for my necklace the night we got back, but when I asked him why he just said it was for a surprise. I see then. Riaz said as she stood near Asia to watch the fight. Boost 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 transfer. As the fight raged on, they had gotten far enough away from Riaz and Asia. Rizer began to throw more punches as his fists were on fire. He let out a flurry of punches to the body and then one final shot to the head. As Rizer was about to goad over the victory, he was short-lived as Issei grabbed his left arm and punched Rizer in the face. Blood flew out from Rizer's mouth and then immediately Issei let go of Rizer's arm and sent a punch to each side of his ribs and one more in the center of his chest. Rizer fell to the floor, cough up more blood while gasping for air. This is going to hurt, but before that happens I have something to say. As his helmet disappeared. And that would be. Because nothing you say has any bearing. He said, panting from the fight, trying to catch his breath as his body was leaking blood everywhere from the cuts all over his body as he was sitting on his knees on the floor. I have done some stupid shit in my life, but you need to sort your shit out. You have 14 other girls in your harem and I bet you treat them like they are around just to fuck. Don't you? What are you on about? Rizer looked at him as he knew what he was talking about. I knew you are an idiot. Have you ever wondered why Ravel likes me, yet due to who my mother is I don't act like you? No, don't answer that. It's because I'm not a jackass who thinks I can stick my beep any woman, because I come from a high-class family. Take a look at the rest of your family, you might learn something. And one final thing, get to know those girls and take that queen of yours out on a date, because with the way you're going, that's the best you're ever going to get. As Issei finished, he took all the energy he had stored up and punched Rizer one final time, causing him to fall over, knocking him out completely as he faded away in blue light. Rizer Phoenix retired. After the retirement call was made, everybody remaining on the field was teleported into a room with a couch and some chairs spread about. Issei released his armor, yet the gauntlet was still on his hand. Issei, why do you still have the gauntlet out? Riaz asked him as she started to walk closer to him. As she asked him, he opened up his hand and revealed the crucifix in his hand. Oh, you know, don't want to burn my hand. As he said that, he summoned a small box and placed the necklace into it and the gear disappeared. He then saw Asia sitting down on one of the chairs and went over to her and handed her the box. Thank you for that, it saved me quite a bit of time. No problem, Issei. She said as she took the box from him, and then another voice was heard. So what would you have done if you didn't have that necklace? The male voice came from behind Issei. He turned around to see none other than Surzech Lucifer. Brother. Riaz said, walking towards him. Oh, it's Lucifer. Well, if you must know, I would have done it the hard way. Issei said. And the hard way is? Surzech asked him, knowing what it would be. Savagely beat the shit out of him. The holy power from the cross just speeds up the process. As he told him, he just shrugged his shoulders. Oh? And you are sure that would have beat him without the cross? Surzech questioned him while giving him a smile. It would most likely have devolved into me punching him while he's on the ground for a while. But from the games I saw with Ruvel in them, I had a guess that their regeneration is based on demonic power or stamina or both. As he was talking about it, he walked over and sat down on the couch. I see, and did you ever ask about their powers from young Ravel? Surzech asked him, and he saw his eyes go wide. Issei took a second to respond. I never thought about it. Ahaha, that wasn't one of your smartest ideas, was it? Surzech still smiled away. No, it isn't. I can say I've done dumber things. Issei responded in a down tone while looking down. Well, now that we established that, I will take my leave. I have to deal with the Devil Council over all of what transpired here. He started to walk out of the room and then spoke again. And Frey wants to speak to you, apparently it's important. After he left the room, Riaz walked over to Issei and sat next to him on the couch. Issei wrapped his right arm around her. Thank you so much, Issei. She turned to face him and kissed him, surprising him and Asia. As she backed out of the kiss and sat back down, well, I know a way that is fun for both of us, the problem is there is a third person here. Issei and Riaz both looked over to Asia as her face was bright as a Christmas tree. He spoke up, come over here, Asia. He waved her over with his left hand. But the two of you? She hesitated but eventually sat on his left side and Issei wrapped his left arm around her. Bring her closer. I know what both of you want. He told them, surprising them. Are you sure? Asia asked him, and that would be? Riaz followed up. Issei's hands were slowly inching up their skirts and stopping at their panties as they were too engrossed in his words. I know you both want a relationship, and conveniently I always wanted a harem. I always had a dream of being a harem king when I was younger. And I will gladly give you girls a relationship in return. Riaz and Asia both, though, for a minute thinking about the options they had. When they were done, they both looked at each other and nodded. Agreed, they said in unison. However, I have to be the head girl. Ria said with determination. It should also help with questions about a relationship in the underworld. She added on. I can agree to all of that. Plus if I'm being honest here I think my mother and your brother kinda set us up together. I can't prove anything but my suspicions are there. He said. What about the short term? Asia asked as her mood had improved from earlier. The short term is what happens when we get out of here and go back home and get to bed. I know this is a crude way of asking, but would you like a threesome? It's bound to happen, might as well start it after a bang. He asked with a smile. Sounds fun. Ria said as she leaned her head on his shoulder. If you want to. Asia said quietly as she was hugging him. A couple of seconds later the door opened and in came Freya in her revealing dress holding a book in her hand. As she took a seat across from them she saw that his hands were occupied and she had a small smile. I heard you're gonna have a threesome, that a new experience for you. It is a new one and I plan on having a good time. Anyways, what's important that you need to talk about? He asked. Well, first she pointed at Ria's lace. Then she pointed at Asia Khan. Then she looked back to Issei. Am I right? Disturbingly yes. He said as the girls were confused. What's she talking about, Issei? Ria's asked as it was a totally random question. Look down, girls. Freya said and the girls followed suit and saw Issei hands. Issei. They both yelled as they closed their legs. How long has your hand been there? Ria's asked as Asia was blushing. Long enough, it was fun though. He was smiling as he pulled his hands out from under the skirts. Anyways, take a look at this. She passed him the book that was in her hand. He started to thumb through the pages, seeing data from all around the world of locations names. Is this what I think it is? You bet it is. We found it last month and with that book we found Ziva and Hathor's books immediately. Who else is left? Issei asked her. Ain of the Celtic, Kedish of Egyptian, Jeyushan of Chinese and yours. She told him. Why are you looking for these books? Asia asked. Around 20 years ago we came across the first book and when we found it the contents of the book were shocking. It contained the name of a god that embodied sex to some extent, a brief history of them and every single person they have had sex with. Well, nobody who knows about these books knows why they are so accurate, but they are. The worst part is when we found the first book and there was a summoning circle of unknown origins that allows the user to summon the person of the book. Freya explained about the book as they were not at all informed about them. The first book we found was Stjoffens of the Norse and when we found it, we were able to get a meeting of all the goddesses as the men didn't exactly care at the start. We questioned the accuracy of the book at the start and while Stjoffen didn't remember all of the encounters in the book, it was accurate for what she did remember. It escalated drastically when I was summoned by a human, questioned him about the book and they wiped his memory and took the book. As we looked through my book I was able to confirm everything in it. The scary part aside from that was the book even knew that I had sex with Issei and it even knew about that I turned him into a girl for a while. These books are dangerous. Besides having a log of everything we have done, it also proves the supernatural is real. That part is something all factions like to keep under wraps still. Issei said as he continued to look through the book. Also don't speak about the books, some things are better left untold. Freya told the girls we think one of the books is in Japan, but we don't know too much after that. Anyways, I have to get back, I'll talk to you later. As she finished she got up and took the book back from Issei and walked away from them. Well, then I think it's time we go home and have some fun. Issei said as he stood up and held his hands out as a magic circle appeared at his feet. They grabbed his hands and gathered around him and in a flash of pink teleported away. Lemon time, it goes to the end. As the light died down they appeared in Issei's room. He immediately took off his shoes, then sat on the bed. He looked over to Ria's and Asia who were also taking their shoes as Asia was talking longer as she was wearing boots. Ria sat on Issei's lap as his right hand went up the back of her shirt and detached a hook on her bra while his left hand snaked down under her skirt and began to stroke her entrance through her panties. His now free right hand swept around her and began to play with her right breast. Issei. Ria struggled to say as she getting aroused, don't you think it a little quick? Yes, it is. He said as he pulled his hands out from under her clothes. She gave a small pout of disappointment as his hands left her. So how do you want to go about this? Riaz asked as she stood up. I was thinking Asia would have a go first as you already lost your virginity. But don't worry Riaz, do you remember the toy during your sleep? He saw a blush come across her face. That will keep you company for a little bit. But first, we need to get naked. He said with a smile as Asia began to blush heavily. Riaz and Asia began to take off their shirts slowly as they watched Issei take off all his clothes while sitting on the bed. As Issei was now completely naked they finally got their shirts off and began to take off skirts. While they were getting undressed they saw Issei getting aroused as his beep was getting stiff and stand at attention. Asia saw his erection, but when she saw it she looked away only to peek back at it. As she was only in her underwear still Issei called out to her. Asia, don't take those off yet, but Riaz, you can take it all off. Why? She asked as she tried to divert her eyes. It's part of the fun. He said as he got up and went over to his dresser and grabbed a bottle out of it. When he sat back down on the bed, he motioned to her come to him. She walked over to him and sat next to him while he did the same for Riaz. As Riaz sat next to him, he formed a small magic circle and waved as near her vagina. This caused the toy he implanted to activate and it began to lightly simulate her. He turned back to Asia. Now then, sex is about communication. If you don't feel right, speak up. In the end, a bad experience can ruin it for a while. He began to run his hands all around her. I know your past limited your knowledge, but how much do you know about sex? He asked her as he began to rub around her breast. Not much. I know about procreation and that's about it. She said as she was starting to feel good from his hands. I aim to make a good impression then. He unhooked her bra. It was as wide as it could be, just as pure as she was, and slid it off of her. He started to fondle her breast, bouncing them around in his hand and tweaking her nipples. While not the largest of pair, Issei still enjoyed them nonetheless. Issei, that feels. Amazing. Asia said as she was moaning from the touch. That good, even though you don't have larger boobs, don't be discouraged. He said softly in her ear as he started to nibble on it. He took this time to speed up the process as he slid his left hand down to her matching white panties. He stuck his hand down the front of them and reached all the way down and started to rub his finger on her entrance. She closed her legs, locking his hand in position. It's a new feeling having somebody else touch you. He said as she loosened up her legs and he continued to play with her some more. I'm going to stick a finger in now, are you ready? He asked her, and when he saw her nod yes. He slid in his index finger into her and slowly began to slide it in about out of her. This went on for a couple of minutes as he was taking it slowly, but he stopped to pulled his finger out of her as she was a wet mess and brought up to lips. Would you like to taste it? She shook her head. No, it feels like I wet myself. Issei shifted himself off the bed and now over in front of her as he was kneeling down. You did, just not in the normal way. However, you look like you're ready for the main attraction. He grabbed the bottle and squeezed out some of the lube out and coated his beep. Lay down and then slide back a bit. She did as she was told. Then he lifted up her legs into the air and slowly pulled off her underwear, leaving her now completely naked. He spread her legs and brought them down and climbed up on the bed while Asia caught another glimpse of his beep. She pointed at it. That's going in me? She asked while he nodded. It is, but first I need to give you a little more lube and my toy for later. He poured some lube on his finger and a magic circle on his fingertip appeared. He then stuck his finger in her, giving her inside some more lube, and then began to draw the same pattern on her as he did with Riaz. He got up and slid between her legs and slit the tip of his beep into her. She shook her hips from the feeling of him, but he leaned down to her, getting face to face with her. Are you ready? He asked. Yes, please go ahead. Asia gave him the go ahead as he started to push slowly into her. Issei inched into until he came to her hymen, then he stopped. As he held the position, he gave Asia a long kiss. During that time he continued on plowing through Alway the way, sheathing him completely. During his thrust, she wrapped her legs around him and her arms around his body best she could. It hurts. She yelled as a few tears come from her eyes. I know. He said as he left hand reached down and started to rub her clit a little. I'm going to let you get used to it for a bit. You are extremely tight, but we can get it working here soon. He finished. After a few minutes of kissing and touching, he pulled out of her just to the point where he was almost out, but then slid back in all the way. This caused her to tighten up and Issei repeated it over and over for a while. Eventually, Asia spoke up out from her cries of pleasure. Issei, I feel something. Her breathing was erratic as she spoke. As he was thrusting away at a moderate speed, don't fight it, let it happen. He said as he rubbed her tits. A few seconds later she clamped down on him and she let out a scream as Issei thrust into her one final time as she had her orgasm. He reached up to her womb and let his orgasm flow. As his seed flooded her, she began to calm her breathing, but she was unable to keep her eyes open. As such she fell asleep while Issei was still inside of her. He dug his arms around her and moved her over to the other side of the bed while he pulled out from her and closed her legs. Issei then looked over to Riaz, who by this time looked like a rabid dog ready to pounce. He moved over to her, whispered in her ear, how may I serve you? As she looked down and saw that he was still hard as a rock. How are you still up? She asked as she started to stroke him slowly with her right hand. I can keep myself up due to my mom magic. He reached down and stuck a finger inside of her and swirled it around, then pulled it out. His finger was as wet as it could be, but he had a taste as he stuck his finger in his mouth. Tasty. He said as he turned off her toy, but for her it was torture. He turned over to her and started to make out. Spit was falling down as they battled for dominance. Riaz was new to this and ultimately lost hers while she was still jacking Issei off. Issei did the same while playing with her breasts. As she broke from the kiss, Issei smiled. You have much to learn. What position do you want? He gave her the best choice, the one she didn't have last time. I looked through a book once and saw interesting things, but I think I want to try doggy. She said with a smile on her face as she turned around presenting her ass to him. A good choice. He said as he saw her wiggle her ass. He got the picture and climbed up behind her. Once ready he lined his beep up with her and slid right on and no fuss at all. Riaz gave a scream of appreciation. Yes. That feels so good. That toy is torture compared to you. She said as Issei began to thrust away. He grabbed onto her hips bringing her in closer with each and every thrust closing in on her womb. He kept going for a while. When he thrust in he smacked her on the ass with his right hand. Eek, she screamed while she got slightly tighter from the act. Issei noticed this. Are you a masochist? He continued fucking her. No. She cried. Akeno is into sadism. I'm not into that at all. She said as Issei continued on. Everybody has their kinks, but we can look for it later. He reached down and rubbed her clit as he was pounding away. I can feel that you're near your limit. The toy did a number on you. Yes. She yelled out as Issei exploded inside of her. He pulled out of her as she collapsed. She rolled over to her back and Issei saw that she was tired. I think we should call it for the night. He told her as he moved over to grab Asia. He placed her on the other side next to Riaz and laid down between them. As he was getting comfortable Riaz latched onto him and hugged him. So what's your kink? Deep in lingerie. He told her I enjoy women's breasts and the garments that shape them. A nice pair of bra and panties are always an amazing thing to see. He wrapped his arms around both girls. Simple tastes, I can accommodate it. She said as she ran her fingers over his chest. What do you think will be Asia's? Who knows? He reached around to put his hand under her chest. She comes from the church so BDSM is highly unlikely. I think she going to be submissive because of her time in the church and anything beyond missionary or lotus, most likely something that will take time. But for now, if she wants to have another round it will be vanilla. He looked over to her as he saw Ria's eyes were closed and she mumbled thank you. He took that as his cue and closed his eyes to get his heart earned rest. The light came shining through the window as the sun rises bringing about another day. As it filled the room and illuminated the bed Riaz, Issei and Asia could be seen sleeping. All was as perfect as it could be as Riaz and Asia had been awoken while Issei was still asleep. As Riaz was laying down she saw Asia was also awake as well. Asia, however, was looking at something else as Riaz looked down the bed and saw little Issei standing proud. What should we do? Asia asked quietly, not trying to wake Issei up. Riaz moved down the bed and put her hand around his beep and slowly stroked it. He played with us last night. I think it's only fair we play with him, don't you think? Asia crawled down the bed and focused on his beep. I don't know, he's still asleep. Riaz thought back to Issei words from last night. I think we should. It will be a pleasant surprise for him. She moved her head down and put her mouth around began to give him a blowjob. Asia watched as Ria's head move up and down on his shaft with an occasional stroke of her hand. She looked up and saw that Issei was still asleep. When she turned back to Riaz she backed off as she needed air. Asia scooted closer as Riaz said, put your hand around it gently. As she gripped it, good, slowly move your hand up and down. Riaz watched Asia as they were having fun. Riaz got her face closer to it as Asia continued to stroke him, give him a kiss right on the tip. Asia hesitated but went with it. She leaned into it and kissed it right on the underside of the tip. Riaz did the same on the side of the tip. Before they could back away he fired off a load into the air, landing on their faces. What they thought was going to be a fun time resulted in them in now getting cum all over their faces. With a smile on her face Riaz wiped off a glob with her finger. I had a taste. It tastes weird. She looked to Asia. You going to try it? Asia wiped a small amount of it off her face with her finger and licked it. It does taste weird, kinda salty. It's a taste you have to get used to. Out came another female voice. The girl stiffened and turned to see Aphrodite standing in the doorway. She walked in and picked up Issei's shirt off the floor and threw it on top of his crotch. When did you walk in? Riaz asked her as she never heard the door open. Right after Asia started to jack him off. I decided to see how far the two of you would go. And I must say it was bold of you. She walked over to the desk and took a seat in the chair at the desk. Isn't this awkward for you as it is for us? Asia said. This isn't the first time I walked in on Issei having sex. And Asia, you have to remember that incest is a thing outside of the factions, not under the Bible. Back in the heyday incest was all the rage in Olympus and devils are no strangers to it. Aphrodite shrugged it off as a common thing. But it's wrong. Asia said. For humans, yes it is. Once you walk into the supernatural it's fairly common. She told them. Anyways, after last night the three of you need a shower, so hop to it. Also, summon the rest of your peerage here later. Why? She asked as she didn't hear about anything going today. It's a surprise. Aphrodite gave a smile as she pointed at the door. They both got off the bed and walked out the door and headed to the bathroom. As the door closed she spoke again. I know you're awake. Issei sat up now that the others were gone. So what's up? It must be important if you ruined their fun. She looked at him. I didn't expect them to be so bold. Anyways, Zeus called a class 1 meeting 3 days ago. Due to the training time, you were unable to attend, so today he wants to speak to you. Last time he called a class 1 was when I almost killed that exorcist on Crete. What blew up this time? He asked her. You'll find out later. She got up from the chair and walked over to the door and put her hand on it. When she did, a small magic circle appeared as she cast a spell, so no sound got out. I'm happy for you. You finally have a chance with girls your age instead of women my age. She was about to open the door as she hadn't released the spell then. Wait, Issei said. Did you set me up with Riaz then? Still looking at the door she spoke. No, I tried matchmaking once and it's not something I have tried ever since. It's natural between the two of you. After she finished she opened the door and left. I see, don't fuck it up. Issei mumbled as he laid back down in bed. 4 hours later. Inside the living room, everybody had assembled as requested. As they were sitting on the couches they had all been wondering the same thing. So why are we all gathered here? Kiba asked the question that was on everybody's mind. I don't exactly know. Riaz told them, Aphrodite told me to summon you all here and I did as requested. She finished. And you don't know why? Akeno asked and all she saw was Riaz shake her head no. She then looked over to Issei. Do you know why? Riaz knows about as much as I do. Issei told them. Suspicious, Kaneko said. After a minute of silence at the entrance of the room appeared Aphrodite. Well, now I see you're all here. Riaz stood up and turned to face Aphrodite. Yes, this is everybody as you requested. Perfect. Aphrodite walked to the middle of the room and a giant magic circle appeared. Everybody get in, we are going on a small trip. She showed a smile while continued to power the circle. Everybody looked to Riaz for guidance as they didn't exactly want to go wherever. That was when Issei stood in the circle in front of his mother. Everybody else piled into the circle and once in they teleported away. Scene change. As the circle appeared at its destination the group looked around and saw a big open square. The floor was covered in bricks, buildings that towered up, yet they looked like the ancient buildings found in Greece. Where are we? Riaz asked as they continued to look around at the buildings. This is Agora. Aphrodite said, this is the town that sits at the foot of Olympus. She turned around and pointed to a mountain at the end of the city. Up there is Olympus, but you need to climb its 20,000 steps to get up to it. For the most part, the gods live up there, but others of us live down here in Agora. I never thought a place like this existed. Asia's eyes were taking in all she could as she looked around. As the whole group was looking around an unknown voice spoke up. Excuse me, ladies. He looked to Aphrodite. Good to see you're back, Aphrodite. He said with a smile on his face. They saw a man who was slightly taller than Issei, yet he has brown curly hair. His frame was muscular yet still lean, wearing a white robe with wings. On his side, he had a bag with papers coming out of them. Hermes, Aphrodite said while introducing him to the group. Yes, that's me, fast as can be. Out delivering letters and the perfect time to see you of all people. He said while looking at Issei. Issei, I got something for you. He stuck his hand in his bag and pulled out a letter with a bold golden border and a lightning bolt stamp on the bag and handed it to Issei. Official summons never fun. Issei opened the letter and started reading the contents and stopped and looked at Hermes. When did he send this? About 10 minutes ago. You're my second delivery of the day so far. Why? Hermes told him. I need to be up that mountain in 5 minutes and it takes 10 to climb it even for you. He stuck the letter in his pocket and started running off. Wait, Issei. Riaz yelled out only for Aphrodite to put her hand on her shoulder. That's a summons letter. He has things to do today and we are going to have a relaxing day. She said as she started to walk away. Come along now. As they walked down the street they got to the end and made a right and were greeted by a massive building that could be seen from where they teleported to. Excuse me, but what is this place? Kiba asked. I'm glad you asked. This is Aphrodite was about to respond but was interrupted by another voice. The best massage parlor in the supernatural world. A female voice said. The woman walked out from behind Aphrodite, standing around 6 feet tall with long brown hair, with a purple streak of hair down the center, with matching purple bangs with brown eyes and a chest size smaller than Ria's. She wore a white blouse with a floral print that cut off at her belly button while wearing a matching white skirt that went down to her knees. My name is Lily, I run this place. It is known throughout the supernatural world as the Serenity. She said as she was looking at the group and noticed someone missing. Where's Issei? He's overdue for a run of the place. The knot in his back last time was insane. Zeus called him. Aphrodite said. Oh, well, let's head inside. Lily opened the door and walked inside to the front desk and told the receptionist something, then turned around to see everybody inside. Perfect. Behind me are two doors. On my right is the men's side and on the right is the women's side. Normally we don't have too many men here, so you're in luck as today you're the only one. A snap of her finger was heard and out came two girls. Ladies, take care of our male patron. Yes ma'am. Right, this way. They said while having a gleam in their eyes as they saw Kiba walking into the men's side. Should he be worried about that? Akeno asked as she saw those eyes of the girls. Aphrodite shrugged her shoulders. That's this pantheon in a nutshell. Don't worry, those girls are pervs, but they know not to do anything stupid. Anyways, head on in and get undressed and take a seat in the pool. Lily watched the girls walk into the room while Aphrodite was waiting for them to leave. So it was the Retid, right? Referring to what exactly? Aphrodite asked her. You know exactly what it is. He had sex with the red-hair girl, right? She was trying to make her point as she poked her chest out. Would you believe me if I told you he did with a little blonde girl? She asked Lily. She kinda small, didn't think he would go for her yet. Lily thought about her size. It gets better. I took her in as my daughter. She's such a cutie, but don't do anything crazy to her. She was a member of the church, so keep it clean with her. Aphrodite started to walk away but was stopped as Lily grabbed her ass cheek with a full grab and squeezed it. Aphrodite looked back at Lily as she liked it. What, you know why I started this place? For exactly that reason. Lily told her with a smile on her face. Can we have some fun later when the kids are gone? Aphrodite looked at her. Maybe, depends on how I feel, but if I do you the cushion. Lily let go of her and followed Aphrodite into the room and saw everybody getting undressed and began to get ready for work. Scene change. Issei had climbed up the steps and when he reached the top, he passed the massive gates that guarded the entrance of Olympus. Once past the gates, he went into the building dead ahead of him and the meeting place and heart of Olympus. As he entered the building, he saw two people sitting down at a table. You're late. Rang out as it echoed through the room. Issei looked down the room and saw two people sitting around a table. First was a muscularly old man with a matching white beard and long hair. Next to him, a man who looked in his 30s, not too muscular, yet showing a defined body with amber-colored hair that was tied back to a small ponytail. As Issei walked to the chair next to them, he acknowledged them. Hephaestus, Lord Zeus. He said as he sat down in the chair. You do remember I'm not allowed to teleport up here? Both of the men looked at him as they thought he was crazy. What do you mean you can't teleport up here? Zeus asked him. Just as I said, I am not allowed to teleport up here from the city or anywhere. Issei told them while getting a smile from Hephaestus as he began to laugh. Ahahaha. Hephaestus bellowed out as some tears began to fall from his laughter. You know we were messing around with you when you were younger. He said as he wiped his eyes. Zeus looked back and forth between the two when his eyes widened as he remembered. Oh, I remember now. We told you that so you would have to run up and down the steps when you were younger, physical training and all that. I thought you would have figured it out. Issei looked at the two and summoned a piece of paper and then sent it back. I hate you guys. To think you still believed in that. Oh man, the next meeting with all the others is gonna be great when they learn about this. Zeus said as he had a small chuckle. Ha ha ha, you summoned me here, so the deal. Mother told me there was a class 1 meeting 3 days ago. So what's this all about? Issei asked as the others now got serious. On to the point then. Due to your new position as a devil, I figured this information is highly relevant. Normally you would be left out, but this is of the utmost importance. Nothing said here leaves the room, and Gremory will not hear about this from you. Issei nodded his head. Very well, as you know the church maintains secret areas in their buildings. That much is far from secret, however. There is a church in Greece that long ago we agreed with them to contain a vault. This vault contains objects vital to the church, and 4 days ago one of the objects was stolen from it and all the staff was slaughtered. Zeus told him. I see, and are we privy to what was stolen? Issei asked, now wondering what could be so vital. We are. The vault contained Excalibur, transparency and rapidly. As Zeus laid out what was stolen, he saw Issei grasp the situation. That is not good news to hear at all. Is there any clues on who stole the swords? At this time no, and the church believes it was not an inside job. Realistically there is only one faction with use for the swords, and that is the Fallen. Issei finished his sentence. Azazel has been a pacifist for the most part if what you in history have said is correct. Correct, Azazel hasn't done anything remotely close to war since he fell from heaven all those years ago. We think they may have a rogue element. Hephaestus said. I said it once and I'll say it again. A new voice came out from the entrance of the room. If the Fallen have stolen weapons that can harm devils, it can only be Cacabial. They saw a man around 6'5", short brown hair with a fair amount of muscles. Ares, we're not saying you're wrong, we just don't know enough yet. Zeus said. Cut the shit, old man. None of the Fallen are stupid enough to go against Azazel. Cacabial, however, as he was a warmonger when he fell and was bloodthirsty when they had the three-way war. As he finished he looked to Issei. Issei, if he has those swords, watch your ass. With you now as a devil, you are weak to those blades, and Kakabiel is crazy enough to bring heaven devils and the fallen back into a full-on war, and if you were to die because of your new weakness, we would also most likely get drawn into that hellhole. As he finished speaking, he promptly left the room before anybody could argue back at him. Zhu sighed, that stupid child of mine. He's not wrong and he's most likely correct about everything. Anyways, that's all I had for you. Hephaestus, on the other hand, summoned 2 items, and Issei was familiar with one. First, he slid him his sword hilt. After you broke the first blade, I started to work on a replacement blade. I made some upgrades to the blade since then, but it was for nothing. Ares tested the blades, and due to them folding, they were too prone to shattering. Issei lifted up the hilt, and it felt like it had something else in it. I take it as it's not empty. No. After the incident 4 days ago, Zeus told me to make a blade for it out of the shards. He told Issei. Wait, the shards of Chronoside? He asked them and both of them acknowledged. I forged a divine blade to fit the specs of that hilt. That blade will never work reliably without it. Hephaestus saw Issei put the sword away in its hiding spot. After Issei hid the blade, then had a small box slid across the table to him. He opened it up to see that it was larger on the inside than it appeared. As he gazed into it, he saw all different metals. He looked up. Is this what I think it is? Jewelry has and always will be a staple for women. And seeing as you're well. Let's just say you're going to need them, and there is plenty of it in it. Hephaestus smiled. Or have I been wasting my crafts for thousands of years now? Issei shook his head. No, definitely not. I will figure out a way to make use of it. He looked at Zeus. Is there anything else? That is everything about the current situation that we know. I suspect the church is holding back information. He told him, and before you ask, Aphrodite took them to the spa. I trust you know what one. I do, and I'll be heading out now. He stood up and proceeded to walk out of the building. As Issei was out of the building, the two of them looked at each other. I didn't expect Lady Hera to agree to his eventual marriage to the sister of Lucifer. Hephaestus told Zeus. Sometimes I feel sorry for him. What I thought was the right thing to do ended up backfiring on him. As for the marriage, it's in the devil's court now. Zeus said as they got up to leave as well. Scene change. Issei had reached the spa in question. He walked into the shop. He saw Kiba sitting on the couch as he sunk into it. He walked over to Kiba and saw that he was about to fall asleep. He waved his hand in front of his face. You awake? Yes. He responded, barely awake. Do you want to go home? Issei asked him. Please, I can't handle going back to see those girls. He stood up as Issei had a magic circle ready. I can send you to the club room. Anything after that is on you. He got Kiba into the circle and sent him away. As the light died down, he walked over to the receptionist and bent over on the counter and talked to her. Tiff, what did they do to him? He's a prim and proper person. That kind of relaxed is like they had sex with him. Well, that didn't happen, I know that much. They gave him the works, but no sex, I made sure of that. She told him anyways. Lily wants you to head into the ladies' room. Issei smiled and started to walk into the ladies' room. When he got in, he walked past a dressing room and into a larger room that had massage tables on his left and a pool on the right side. On the tables, he saw Asia and Kaneko sleeping. As he walked over to the pool, he found Riaz and Aphrodite sitting across from each other, while there were some other girls in there as well further down. He walked over to the edge of the pool and sat down near Riaz. Hey, he said, catching her attention. I sent Kiba home. The girls did a number on them, and judging how the others are, I see why now. She looked up at him. What are you doing in here? Didn't you know this is the women's room? I do, but Tiff said that Lily wanted me in here. He looked up and remembered that there were others in here. He then asked them. You mind if I'm in here? The girls looked at each other and had a smile on their faces, and one spoke for the group. You can stay, but you need to take off your shirt as payment. He looked back at Riaz, who now had a blush on her face. You heard the demands and I think it's fair. He started to pull off his shirt and stretched his arms all the way out to show off his body. As his shirt disappeared, he saw the girls eyeing him up and one said, thank you. He now was focused on the here and now. So what were you two talking about? He asked. I told her about some of your dumber things you have done. His mother said. Oh, you call them dumb, but they were all fun. Did you tell her about the time I fell asleep on Hera? He asked, getting a nod from Aphrodite. Okay, what about that one time I tried to be smart so Hestia would like me? He got a nod from both of them. What about that time I went to Ibiza? No, only told her of things you did here. She said as Riaz was now interested. Oh, this is a good one. Last year I went to Ibiza and ran a huge party in the clubs. Fake kid used magic to age myself up to pass. This all happened on a Saturday local time, but as Sunday night came around I did the same thing. Sunday rolls around and I ran into Freju, went back to her place till the night came. She drugged me again. So next thing I know we are in a ladies only club on a Sunday night again, dancing all night. Missed school on Monday as her drug didn't wear off, and no way in hell I can go to school as a girl. Got my ass handed to me on Tuesday by Citri. Turns out she doesn't like if you miss school on a Monday. She doesn't like if you miss school in general. And you were a first year so she really didn't like it. Ria said as Issei put his hand on her head. Thinking about it now I don't remember much of the night after the clubs. He said as he felt a firm grip on his shoulder. He looked up and saw Lily leaning on his shoulder while Akeno was getting dressed. Up and out of the water and on the tables. Issei, you're last as I can already feel the knots. Lily said as the other got out of the water. Issei laid down to pass some time as he waited for his turn. After an hour he felt something poking him in the face. He opened his eyes to see Lily crouched down next to him with her finger in his face. It's your turn. She said as she stood up and walked to a table. Issei got up and followed her. He noticed that they were the only ones in the room. So where did they go after they left here? He asked her as he started to undress. Oh no, Aphrodite told me to tell you that they would meet you back at home. She told him as she pointed to the table. Face down? He asked. Down? She said as he laid down on the table. She began to rub oil over his back working into his shoulder blades. She whispered into his ear, how about we have some fun, shall we? End of the part 4. So how was this story? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this story with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.